a little live here on our YouTube channel this afternoon, round 19, just one game to go. The Warrington Wolves take on the Castleford Tigers this afternoon in a game that Sam Burgess's men must win. But as it says there in the title, this is an opportunity, a little Q&A, maybe. Hopefully, I'd love somebody to put something in the chat just so I know that I can see it when they come on, or else we won't be doing much Q&As, will we? Let's have a quick look. Anything there? No. There you go. Hello, Paul Bourman. Good lad. Well done, mate. So a couple of Q&As. Ask anything you like. I'm going to do a quick live, a quick chat with the greatest people on earth. Steph Sale, my old mucker, he's there as well. What would you like to talk about? Who wins today, says Billy Ingram. Well, Billy, that is a massive question. You'd expect Warrington to win, but then we're talking Warrington. Their form has been quite simply shambolic, hasn't it, in Super League this season? They have been really, really good in the Challenge Cup, but yeah, when it's come to Super League, they have been very, very poor indeed, haven't they? So, I mean, you'd expect Warrington to win. It's a shorter pitch. It's going to be interesting to see Vaughan go up against Tom Amone. That'll be a good battle, I think. I mean, Warrington are probably going to have a lot of youth on the edges again. So, it'll be interesting to see how they go up against some more seasoned pros on the edges. But they have to win. It's as simple as that. Warrington cannot not win today. If they don't win today, that's it. It's over. I mean, especially if FC's win. And when you consider the week after, in 2 weeks' time, because of course round 20 split, Warrington go to the LSV. You can't see much coming out of that. I think I'm right in saying that FC play Huddersfield that week, so they'll fancy that. And as for Wakey, they've got a really tough battle against the Leeds Rhinos. What a game that's going to be. Leeds against Wakey. Talk about set a marker down for playoff rugby league. Wakey win that. Wow. That's a real opportunity. So like I say, if Warrington have got any ambition whatsoever, they have to win today. Nice one, Billy. Keep them coming. Where's the In the Sheds from last week? Yeah, apologies for that, Paul, but it was going away. So couldn't get it done. Something's got to give. I'll always prioritise member shows first. I had to prioritise them. We had to do a couple of pre-records. So there was no In the Sheds last week. Hopefully this makes up for that. But In the Sheds will return for round 20, my friend. Don't worry about that. The downfall of Wigan, are they a one-man team? Asked Paul Bourman. No, they're not. It would appear that way, but no, they're not. I think what we're seeing at the Wigan Warriors at the moment are two things. I've already said this on a previous live stream today. I think we're seeing a side that were arrogant by not getting new blood in for 2025. I know Craig Forth has said that on the WhatsApp group today, and he's absolutely right. Any team that stands still in any sport is, you're standing still. You're giving the opportunity of those around you to gain yardage. And let's consider Hull KR in this. Hull KR last year got to the grand final. They got to the grand final. And what did they do? They reinforce. They reinforce with the likes of Reece Martin, who's come back and has been in decent form. Of course, he's dropped out again. I'll talk of a bit of a rift as well between Reece and the club. That's an interesting one. We'll keep a close eye on that at Super League Raw. Mickey McAlorum, of course, not necessarily for what he does also on the field, but also what he does off the field. We know that Mickey Mac's been there, done it. He had a massive impact at Catalan. Steve McNamara said that in conversation that we did with him, and it's well known that he had a really big impact at Catalan, and he's probably doing exactly the same again at the Robins. And then you look at the likes of Tom Davies, who for me has been a man reborn. He was good at Catalan. He's been even better at KR. Absolutely sensational, Tom Davies. I mean, a lot of people will make a lot of him scoring the winning try at Wembley. Much better. It's not just about the winning try at Wembley. Tom Davies all season has been a champion winger for KR, and for me the cherry on top, Artur Morg. I mean, what a player. What a player. So you look at that, Wigan stood still. KR have still kept the nucleus of the side that they had that got to the grand final last season. They've complemented it with quality players. They've now knocked off the Challenge Cup. They're in pole position for the League Leaders Shield. That's the danger if you're Wigan Warriors. That's the danger if you're Wigan Warriors. Of course they're going to miss a player of the quality of Bevan French. No doubt about that whatsoever. They did last year when he wasn't there. Jai Field now also going to be out with his HIA. And I have to say, a lot of chat yesterday about how he was allowed to stay on the field. And I completely agree with that. Yet again, head concussion protocols were there to safeguard players. Players will always ask to stay on. It's not the only time we've seen this. And I think, to the layman watching that, he has to go off. He has to go off there and then to be assessed. He didn't. And of course, consequently, he does eventually have a HIA assessment and he fails it. Was that putting the player first? Absolutely not. And I think we expect a lot more from the Cherry and Whites. They're a quality outfit. They are the benchmark. There's no doubt about it in terms of what they do on and off the field. But that was a moment that they won again. Jai Fields should have been took off for that HIA for me. But what we're seeing, and I think this is in all sport, even a great side, I'll say that again, Wigan Warriors are a great side. Confidence is so important in sport. It's so important. Form and confidence in any professional sport is vitally important. And what we're seeing at this moment in time at Wigan Warriors is a side that probably something very unique for them, certainly based on the quadruple last year. They're lacking confidence, they're lacking belief, they're lacking, assurance is the wrong word. They're just not trusting each other, in defence. And of course, defence wins games. You've got to trust yourself. You've got to trust your partner. Like going back to yesterday's game, Jake Wardley can't trust Christian Wade in defence. So, not only has he got to concentrate on his own game, Jake Wardley, the great player that he is, he's then got to also have one eye on what Christian Wade's doing. And the more Christian Wade come under pressure, the more Wardle's game is going to be affected. So that's a big problem for the Wigan Warriors. Would I expect Christian Wade to be in their team next week when the Catalan Dragons come to town? Probably not. Probably not. Especially when you consider he's more than likely going to be coming up against Tommy Makinson as a potential. Let's be fair, Tommy, what a rugby league 3-3, what a pro. So that's a big ask for Christian Wade. And, Catalan Dragons will have seen that. And Catalan Dragons are in that mode. You don't know what Catalan you're getting from one week to the next. So that's going to be really, really, really interesting for me. So hopefully I've answered that question. They're not a one-man team. They're a quality outfit. They just need to find solutions. Of course, one of those solutions was Farriman, and he's out. I know they've been putting Kieran in the halves, but for me, I'd be tempted to put Leigh in there. I really would. But there you go. Come on the wire says Jackery Guitar. Plays a tune, son. Plays a tune. Does Keogh put hairs on your chest? These have been well groomed over the years. They've been developing well. They're going a bit grey though now, which is really disappointing. But thanks for asking, Steph. As always, you've got me back. I see. What happened with Fields yesterday goes off for it. There you go. So I've already answered that. Thanks for that. Leigh for the grand final, says Ian Morris. The Peter Roarers in the grand final. Good Lord, is the ground big enough for that? They'd have to turn the lights off. I mean, it'd be like Cyprus. Remember Cyprus? They had a war with the Turkish, and in Nicosia there was a no man's land. There was a piece of land between the Greek and the Turkish side of the island where nobody went. It was just completely. That'd be Leigh. That would be Leigh. Leigh would be desolate. It'd just be desolate. The whole Peter Roar brigade descending on Old Trafford. Talk about colourful. Wow, imagine that. Why not? Why not? I think what we've seen from Leigh in the last 3 games is a side, as Steph would say, who have been going under the radar. But if you can knock off Wigan, KR and Saints 3 in a row, that is exceptional. And not just that, the manner in which they've done it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I thought the Wigan game was a bit grindy. It was a bit grindy. It was a good win. I mean, the tries. The tries were wonderful, but it was a grinding win. Against KR, KR for me, I thought Leigh was just superb. KR, like I said, I think it was on Captain's Run. It might have been Captain's Run. Can't remember what show it was. But I was there, courtesy of Steph. We had a great day together. A great day as well with Bazza Kingston, Claire. We saw Andor Kirkby on the day. It was a wonderful day at the LSV. But as a neutral, when you go to a game, you can take it all in. And what I saw, especially in the second half, after the first Charlie try, not necessarily the second one, was a KR side that were looking at each other for answers. And we hadn't seen that all season. So I think the amount of respect that KR would have got for the Leopards. I mean, let's not forget, the last time the Leopards beat KR was at Wembley. I think the amount of respect that KR will now have amassed for the Leigh Leopards, they won't be taking them for granted if they were to meet in the playoffs or in the grand final. And that says a lot. So why not? I think you've got to take a team like the Leigh Leopards now really seriously. And I think what I'm really impressed with from the Leopards' point of view is that, the likes of Armstrong goes out, Bailey Hodgson comes in. I think Tessie New's been exceptional. Their pack appears to be lightweight. And it's almost like Anthony Joshua going up against Usich, where he said at the end, when he had his meltdown, he said, how did you beat me? Because, the size that Joshua had on him, possibly took him for granted. And it's the same when the Leigh Leopards come to town at the moment against most Super League side. Not well, that's disingenuous. Not most Super League side, but certainly, I mean, these three that they've knocked off: Saints, KR, and Wigan. I think the most ardent be the Roarer would have looked at the team sheets before all three of them games and thought our middle unit are going to probably get a bloody nose here. Not a bit of it. Not a bit of it. I mean, and it's like that old saying, isn't it? You remember Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where he says, one man fighting for something is worth 10 armed soldiers. That was Leigh. It was one armed man. They just wanted it more. They ran harder. They got perhaps performances that was way over what you would have expected. And that's why they deserve respect. So, yeah, Leigh Leopards, why not? Wouldn't it be lovely to see the Be the Roarers at Old Trafford? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be a bit different. If you had to give Man of Steel to anyone at this stage, who would you give it to? Billy Ingram. Hello to Aidan Simpson. Another one from Billy. Do you know what, Billy? That's a really good question. It's a really good question. For me personally, I think Mikey Lewis at this moment in time is in prime position. I really do. I think Mikey's not put a foot wrong this year for me. He really hasn't. He's, for any player to get Man of Steel and then back it up the year after, that takes a very special player. And he's answering so many questions, is Mikey Lewis. So for me, Mikey Lewis is in the box seat for it. Jake Connor's had a great season, but, by his standards, and he's been a massive bonus for the Leeds Rhinos this year. But is he Man of Steel? Not for me. Same with Aidan Caesar. Is it right that they're in the top 10? Yeah, probably, 100%. I've got no argument with that at all. We know a prop forward's not going to get it. The likes of Fire Tilly and Mike McMeekin's been exceptional at Wakefield. I think they've been really, really good. Urban SASA's been in patches, got off to a phenomenal start, rounds probably up to round 12. Then he's faded a little bit, but he's still punching. He had a good game against Wigan, didn't he? Did Herman. So we know a forward's not going to get it. So for me, like I say, at the moment, Mikey, I think, love him or hate him, the man is an absolute superstar. Great tries again yesterday. Boy of KR missed him. Incredible. So well done, Billy. Craig Forth. Do you think that the Rugby Football League has left promoting the sport to the clubs and not taking any responsibility themselves for promotion? Well, from the outside looking in, you'd have to say yeah. I do think they leave it to the Super League brand to do it. And don't get me wrong, the Super League brand on social media do put little reels up of tries and things like that. But I remember last year when Sky really upped the game, and I think at the start of this season as well, they upped the game with the Ragas thing. But it's tailed off. You can't just do flash in the pan. You've got to keep it consistent. The whole thing about marketing is it's about noise. It's all about noise. It's like at times Sky are like, remember what we used to, you know this, boys. When you were younger and you're in a nightclub, you give a little eye to a lovely senorita. Well, if the lights were off, no one can see you wink. It's like winking in the dark, innit? You know what you're doing, nobody else does. And that's basically rugby league. We all know what we're doing. We all know we've got the greatest game on earth. But unless we promote it and consistently promote it, are we going to get the eyes on it that we need? Probably not. So, yeah, it's underwhelming. It's really underwhelming. And, and I've said this, when we see more stories about politics, about just things that, this person may be leaving, or, this person criticised that person, or this is who's been banned this week. There's too many stories like that. There's not enough stories about players, about what they bring, the gladiatorial nature of them, the tries that they score, the way they live their lives, the conditioning. We don't see much training ground stuff unless it's the clubs who do it. There's so much we could do to market our sport, and quite simply we don't. So for me, not good enough. Not good enough. Fraser Howard, likewise. Could you say KR a one-man team given the last 3 weeks? 100. Well, look again. No, they're not. I think what happens when you take Mikey Lewis out of the team, when you take Bevan French out of the team, what Wigan and KR are guilty of is that when those players are there, rightly so, they are the heartbeat. Everything goes through them. It's like all I've seen it, John Arciata, another case in point. When you set up in a certain way, it's right. It's absolutely right. It's appropriate that these players are front and centre because they're that good. They are the superstars. They are the box office. They're the people that get bums off seats. They're the ones who get the people on the edge of the seats at key moments of the game. So it's right that you set up to bring out their best talents, 100%, and rightly so. I mean, we've seen some glorious tries, haven't we, from all of the aforementioned. So for me, and as you can tell, I've not had many Keos yet. It's flowing, folks. It's flowing. I'm saving that until I get over to that bar. Just to remind you, Davido is on £4.70 cocktails, and their rum, I tell you, could be have rum in them as well. They're proper rum cocktails, and over there later on, I'm going to be well oiled. Don't you worry about that. That's why we're doing the Q&A now and not later. But yeah, like I say, it's right and it's appropriate they put the ball through their hands. But of course, you should always have one eye on what happens if they're not there. You've got to have a plan B. Now, for me, that could be something you could ask the question of if you're a Wigan or a KR fan. What is the plan B? Especially KR at Leigh. If you looked at KR at Leigh, but again, you've got to take into account Richardson got took off. So they might have had a plan B. We know Richardson's a wonderful kicker and a good game manager, but he didn't get the opportunities to sparkle. So it's tough. Maybe they did have a plan B. Maybe they did. But again, when you get Richardson took over, it's hard. But you've got to work on the plan B. Wigan, without French, what's the plan B? I mean, again, you've got to take into account with Wigan, Farriman's been out. So again, that's harsh where Wigan are concerned. Their plan B was let's bring Jack Farriman in. Jack Farriman's gone down injured. It's tough. So, no, I think for me, both of them have had not only injuries to the key man, but also the backup as well, and that's going to affect any side. I don't care how good or bad you are. So I don't think that they are. But like anything, when you're taking the last two men of steel out of a side, is it going to have a detrimental effect? 100%. Fraser, on a separate note, great performance from your boys. You're doing really well. Congratulations, sir. Did the KR result flatter them this week with the scoreline, says Aidan? Mr. Simpson, Simo himself. No, I don't think he did. It went exactly as I said it'd go. I genuinely felt that KR needed to find their groove again. I felt that they looked shell-shocked against Leigh, and I did feel that the first half would be a grind, and it proved to be that way. Don't get me wrong, if they took the chances, they were over the hill and they were far away. They could have even been Julie Andrews doing a little pirouette on top of it, singing at the top of the voices, had they have iced their chances. But hey, Doe and Nida pulling thread, La and note to follow. So, second half, you could argue that it was an Edelweiss of a performance. Let's carry on with the Sound of Music theme, why not? It was absolute. I mean, every morning you greet me. Some of those tries were a wonderful way to start the day. Second half, they just showed the team that they are. Great win. It's what good teams do. They're back on the horse. Trying to remember who KR have got. I think they've got Salford, haven't they, in round 20. So, like I said, it was vitally important that they got back on the horse. I think they've got Salford, and then if my memory's right, it might be Castleford after that. So, for me, by the time they get to Wigan, I think they'll be back in the groove. And the way Wigan are playing at the moment, that could be League Leaders Shield done and dusted at that time for me. Again, Garibo saying the same thing. No, I don't think it did. Billy Ingram with Christian Wade, biggest flop of the season. Hard to tell, Billy. Hard to tell. One thing's for certain, I think his height's a problem in our game. Rugby union's a different sport. So, height is not, because of the way rugby union is played, rucks as opposed to play the balls and defend, the way it's structured. Somebody like a Christian Wade on the edges won't find it too difficult. In rugby league, it's different. There's the bombs. Most sets will end left or right, especially in strike zone, with a bomb. Now, when you've got Christian Wade, I don't know what his height is. He don't look like he's got the greatest leap either. When you've got somebody like that, coming up against the likes of a Harvey Barron, the likes of a Tommy Makinson, Carl Felt's on the horizon, it's a mismatch. As good as he is with ball in hand, he's just going to get picked off. And like I say, it's not just Christian Wade, it's the impact he's having on Wardle. So for me, I just don't see him as a rugby league player. That's a hell of a statement. It's a hell of a statement. And he's his latter years as well. He's dipping his toe in the rugby league water, isn't he? If it had been brought through rugby league, who knows? For me, fullback, will we see him again? I don't know. Oh, I tell you what, that'd be a call, wouldn't it? That'd be a call for next week. Christian Wade at fullback, maybe. I mean, again, Wigan's defence would have to be strong in order to not make the kick chase too challenging for him. So if the Wigan defence got on top, they might not be contested kicks downfield, because what he's got is impeccable pace. So if he was playing at fullback and getting the ball with plenty of field to work with, that'd be interesting. But too early to tell. But for me, I don't think he's got the size. I really don't. Mrs. Sale says, can we fly out to Cyprus and meet you? Absolutely, sir. This chair next to me has got your name on it. Outstanding stuff, that'd be. What's your favourite chocolate from a box of Celebrations, Dave? That is a great question. Alex Sharp asking the questions that really matter. I have to say, if it was a Heroes box, it's a double-decker all day long. All day long. But in a Celebrations box, depends what mood I'm in. I think you can't go wrong with a nice Malteser, Alex, I have to say that. But, if you want to be refined, if you want to be luxurious, there's nothing like a Galaxy Caramel, is there? Boom, let's have a bit of that. And by the way, hope your missus is well. For those who don't know, Alex is had his first baby very, about 2 weeks ago now. We wish him, little Millie, and the missus all the very, very best. That was like the whole derby at Wembley, with the sign on the bridge saying, last one out, turn the lights off. That'll be Leigh if they get to the grand final. I think Leigh's fitness showed. Yeah, I agree. I thought Leigh looked very fit. I think they've looked incredibly fit. Maybe they're peaking at the right time. That's the question. What's your opinion on the split round 20? I think it's good. I'll tell you why I think it's good. Because it just gives the players that little bit of a rest. It gives them a rest, and it allows players to get fit. What we want in those final rounds, hopefully, is those superstar players, the likes of your Jack Wellsby, your Danny Walkers, another week, to just give them another week to get fit, so that when we get to that business end of the season, they've had a little bit of a refresh, any little niggles maybe could be put right, and some of the superstar players that at this moment in time are sat on the sidelines get back to action. That would be wonderful. Speaking of which, what a shocking decision it was to bring Niall Levels back, you Giants fans. I mean, wow, he clearly wasn't fully fit. Rushed him back, and I'd have to ask the question, why? I've not had a response from the Cowbell Army. If Flanagan wasn't injured again, what on earth's all that about? Huddersfield Giants without Flanagan just don't look as if they've got much for me. Wrong call, I would have to say. AD Simpson, what's your favourite ground to visit? That's a great question. Do you know what? I think there's not many bad grounds to go to, because they've all got their own little niche. I've not been to Craven Park since Craven Street's come, so I'm really looking forward to getting down to one of them next year. I need to get that in the diary and make that happen, because I think that would be very, very special indeed. I like the old grounds like your Castlefords, because it's like going back to a bygone era. And for those of us who've been around Super League and Rugby League, when the old grounds were around, there's something nostalgic about going back to a Castleford Tigers, I'd have to say. Headingley's an incredible venue. I think most people say Headingley, and rightly so. It's a let's be fair, it's a chapel of Rugby League in this country. The players love playing there as well. So I think Headingley would be right up there, probably top if it was to be honest. I love going to Wigan. I love going to Saints for obvious reasons, especially if you come away with a win, which is rare. But when you do, it feels really, really good. But again, I'm going to have to give a big shout out to me Be The Roarers. I think since Leigh have come up, and the KR fans found this last week when they went down there, there's something very special about what's going on down there at the LSV. Everything about it, the pre-match, the people, proper Rugby League people. So in terms of my favourite ground, it would be Headingley. But if we were talking overall experience, I think the LSV for me it's captured my heart over the last couple of years. It really has, and loving going there. I think it's absolutely outstanding. Really, really outstanding. Right, okay. Steph's happy with an analogy. I don't know which one, I've had that many, but there you go. Paul Bourman saying about one-man team, look at Leigh. Lammy's getting close to his hours played. No, No, he's not, because again, I did a post on this, didn't I, Paul, where the Rugby Football League lacked any teeth whatsoever. Yet again, the Rugby Football League at the start of the season, come out with a great initiative to try and, make sure that player welfare is right at the top of their priority list, telling people that, limited hours played. And then what did they do? About a month ago it was now, they come out and said there'll be no sanctions for any team that doesn't adhere to it, but they will be asked to write to them to explain what they're going to do to improve it for 2026. Absolutely dire. No teeth at all. So Lockie Lamb will continue to add to his try assists without any concern whatsoever for being stood down. It's a shocker, but it's true. Oh, Steph Sale was Martin in touch. Oh, here comes the grenade from the Sale. No, we won't. I just don't know where they're coming from with that. Don't know where they're coming from with that at all. Lewis Martin was not in touch. Did he go in touch? He did, but at the time the ball had left his hands. Sorry. Maybe a little bit of condensation coming out of the oven as the pies were baking got in the eyes of the Wigan fans there. But once they'd got that condensation off the spectacles and actually saw it with a fresh pair of eyes, I'm sure even they would admit that Lewis Martin was not in touch. Never in a million years. Right. What's with the Purple Crowns? The Purple Crowns, Dawn, is at the moment Steph Sale has made the most comments since this live has gone live. So Steph at the moment is ranked number 1 for comments in the chat. That's what that means. So come on, Dawn, you've got a bit to do. How far is the beach? It is literally a 4-minute walk that away. A 4-minute walk that away. As the great John Cleese once says, if you look over there is the sea between the land and the sky. It's just over there. Absolutely glorious. But like I said, why is Dave doing this? People will say, oh, Dave, you should have had a holiday. But the wife's gone out. The wife's gone out with the kids. It's great. So, we're here with the missus and some friends. They decide to go to the mall. I don't come to Cyprus to go to a shopping mall. Behave yourself. I come to Cyprus to chill, have a beer, get under the sunshine, and just enjoy myself. And the wife knows that. I'd have been like, whatever the phrase is with a sore head. I would have been shocking in that mall. So she said, you have a day. You have a day of you. Outstanding. And I'm sharing it with the loveliest community in Rugby League. You guys, absolutely loving life, loving it. So that's why I'm doing this for you guys today. It's absolutely wonderful. Right, Ben Macklin's back. If he can't be trusted next to Wardle, how could he be trusted at fullback? I did say the defensive line would have to be very good, Ben. If the defensive line got on top so that it was punts from... So you think about it, no bombs get put up from the halfway line. Very seldom from the 40 metres. Normally, a bomb will get put up 35 metres forward. So, for me, if the Wigan defensive line was strong, and against Catalan, why wouldn't it be? For me, it's an option, because for me, if Christian Wade is good under, if he can catch a ball, which again, non-contested, because, we saw contested, he had trouble yesterday, but if he can catch a ball non-contested, be very interested to see what he could do with a bit of ground to run into. So it's just an idea. I mean, I'm not saying it's the right call, but who are you going to put at fullback? Who's going at fullback? Big question. Racking my head. Who'd go fullback? I am racking my head. Come on, you Wigan Warriors fans. Who will go fullback? We know Jai Field. I am racking my head. I don't know about Douglas. Would they put Douglas back there? Don't know. You certainly won't put Marshall back there. I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. Come on, Wigan Warriors fans, get in the chat. Who goes fullback without Field and French? And knows Zach Eckersley? Ooh, trouble at Mill. Someone left the pie out in the rain. It took so long to bake it. Anyway, we move on. If you said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it again? If I said, all I would say is, mate, if this is a beautiful body, wow, is all I'm saying. Billy, you're a very easy man to please, sir. Whatever you do, don't go to any lap dancing bars, mate. You'll be salivating on that one. Right, let's carry on with the... you kids out there, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what I just said. Just don't worry about it. Get to KR for the last game of the season, Dave. It's an option, Ben. Is that an invite, Benny? You buy me ticket, mate. Right, afternoon, says Adam Rees. Oi, Dave, lad, says Baz at Kingston. No, sure not going on the final whistle tonight. Unacceptable, Mr. Kingston. Totally unacceptable. Especially off the back of a good win and going 4 points clear. I expect better from your son. Make it happen. Make it happen. You know it makes sense. Steph Sell, if you could change one rule, currently in Rugby League, you could change, what would it be and why? Do you know what? Let's give a big shout out to Young Goal. I thought always spot on last week. I think 6 again. I think 6 again, as a rule, needs to go. I mean, we can talk video refs. That's complete. I'd put a clock on that and all. But let's just talk on the field. Let's not bring this down into referee bashing and all of that. 6 again. Does it benefit? No, it doesn't at all. Now, you can talk about momentum, but we see that killed a lot, and especially now we play acting as well. How many times this season have we seen a team with momentum and then a player goes down and it's been, trainers called it off and all that nonsense? And the other thing is I think it brings the referees. Remember when we interviewed on In Conversation Ian Smith, Aaron Moore, and they were telling us about how many decisions a rugby league referee has to make in a single game? I think this is putting far too much emphasis on them yet again, because again they favoured the other team because they got so many 6 agains. Well, I think that's nonsense. But I think for me, you give a penalty, you can choose to tap it if you feel you've got momentum, and I think that's where a referee's got to be a bit better. How many times do we see these days a quick tap being allowed? That for me in itself is an advantage. If you're going to give a penalty in the 30 metres and the team wants to, and here's a contentious one for you, I would rather, if the referee blows for a penalty in the 30 metre, let's say, again, you're probably 40 metres out, if you wanted to keep the same rules, so you can either kick for touch or it's a tap. If the attacking team wants to tap the ball, regardless of if the defensive team is onside or not, it should just be allowed, as long as their own players are onside. So as long as their own players are onside, how many times have we seen a player ask the referee, can I take a quick tap? All of their players are onside, but for whatever reason, they just want the defensive line set. And we've seen that, for me, and people argue, well, actually, the rules of the game, it's what actually happens on the field. We see that far too much. So for me, quick tap, that for me would be far more advantageous than a 6 again, because it's giving the attacking team the option. Quick tap, get on with it, and let them do a quick tap. Or no, we're going to play for 2, like in the game at Headingley, where it's going to be a tight game. After 25, 30 minutes, if a game is going to be a proper ding-dong. The grand final last year, the Challenge Cup final this year, the Leigh Saints game at Headingley a couple of weeks ago. Points were always going to be at a premium. So for me, give them the opportunity. Do you want to take a quick tap, or do you want to take the 2? Perfect, absolutely perfect. There you go. Wonderful. Show us your white bits, Dave. You don't want to see them, Bazza. Right, if you could sign one player from one team to go into the wide team, who would you pick and why? I remember Alex Ferguson once being asked when he was away at Barcelona, if you could have one player from Barcelona, Alex, who would it be? And he pretty much looked at the journalist and went, that's probably one of the silliest questions I've ever heard. This isn't that silly. It isn't that silly. Because for me there's 2. But it has to be Bevan French. Bevan French fully fit. Has to be. For me. And that'll upset KR fans. But the difference between French and Mikey at this moment in time is that Bevan is there. Bevan is there. He's the complete player now. Mikey's still developing he's still got to develop his temperament a little bit. So if we're talking in the here and now, it's Bevan French all day long, twice on a Sunday. Are you happy with the signing of Pangai Jr.? Well, not based on that pathetic effort of a tackle that he did on Jack Broadbent yesterday. I mean, we see it sometimes with players, don't we? That one thing we know about Burgess is that he is a player that people command respect from. So Pangai Jr. going to Warrington under Burgess, that's going to be interesting. Do I think he needs to get fitter? 100%. Pangai Jr. fit has got tools, no doubt about that. I don't think he's shown his best at Catalan. However, as Warrington fans will remember Gil Dudson and Sam Cassiano coming from Catalan, and that turned into an absolute disaster. So it's not one that fills me with happiness. Jury out. We'll know after 10 rounds next season, is what I would say. It's going all right, this guys, isn't it? I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. Lovely weather. Gorgeous. Beautiful. Woo! We carry on. Craig Forth. Kieran would be an option for fullback. Leeming into the halves. I think Leeming Craig, I've already said, I think Leeman as a half-back needs to be explored. Needs to be, because you've got young Forbes, haven't you, as well, that can, do the interchange with O'Neill. So, and not just that, interchangeable, because I think even young Forbes could possibly slot in. Kieran could do fullback, you're right. I think, for me, Leeman, the more you look at it, the more, for me, Wigan, I think, in the short term, especially as they transition in this period without French and Field for the next game against Catalan, I think they win it against Catalan. I just can't. I mean, if they lose against Catalan, dearie me. Wow. But for me, Leeman, I put Leeman in there, fullback, good foil for O'Neill, interchangeable. That's what I'd do. There you go. Right, Bazza, KR win, lose. I'm always up for final whistle, but I need a break from it, kiddo. Well, okay, mate, no dramas. Should the green card allow a free 2-minute interchange like a HA? No. Or else, what's the point of the green card? Just saying, Craig. No. The green card is there to make the team make a decision. In the referee's opinion, they've stopped play, in his opinion, for no reason. He's not convinced in the injury. So he's making the coach of that team make a choice. Do you want to play with 12 for 2 minutes as punishment, or do you want to use one of your interchanges? Which, again, in its own way is a punishment. I've got no issue. In fact, I don't think there's been enough green cards. I think, for me, again, there's been a lot of inconsistency around that. But no, I'm happy with the green card. I really, really am. What do you think of the BBC coverage compared to Sky? Absolutely diabolical. It's another, if ever there's a reason for a rugby league fan to not pay a TV licence, when it goes to subscription, goodbye from the rugby league faithful, because well, quite frankly, shocking. Channel 4, far better. Channel 4 should never have lost that in a million years. And what it shows is that the Rugby Football League couldn't get an SLA together to save their lives, because if I'm in those negotiations in ink, I'm making it BBC 2 minimum. None of this how the West was won at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon when brilliant rugby league fare can be showed. Same with Sky. Oh, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll show a rerun of last night's game rather than show a live game. Again, as a sports channel that is all about live entertainment, you've already got the cameras there. You've already got the commentators there. And if you're that bothered about, it's Brian Carney's day off, and we've only got the commentary. You've got to give Brian and Jenna the day off. Get a studio, book Super League Raw, and we'll come down and do your post match. Not a problem whatsoever. It's what the faithful want. Make it happen, Sky. Disappointing, but as far as Auntie's concerned, quite frankly, not fit to be my uncle. Simple as that. Right, Bazza, as the creator of Super League Raw, how heartwarming was it for you when you saw all of us together on Friday? Incredibly heartwarming. That epitomises what we're doing, bringing fans from across the sport together to watch the great game of rugby league. Heartwarming, Bazza. Heartwarming. Wonderful stuff. Congratulations to you all. And I know it meant the world to Greg Roach and to Joel Scholes. And also to the attendants. Sorry, boys. But, there you go. You pick who would pick for the next cast coach. It's going to be Australian, isn't it? I think, it's one of those. And it will be a coach, an assistant coach in Australia. There's a few candidates. But for me, yeah, it'll come from Australia. Not quite sure, if I'm being honest. I'm not quite sure. All I do know is that, like Chris Chester, whoever that coach is, they've got a job on. They've got a job on, is all I would say. Can you see the Giants replacing Robbo at the end of the season? I'm just going to move this round because at this moment I've been in the sun on one shoulder. There you go. I do, yeah. Ken Davies got a lot of loyalty towards Luke, a lot of loyalty, and there's no bigger Huddersfield Giants fan than Luke Robinson. He bleeds claret and gold, and I feel for him. But like I say, if and I don't know if this is the case or not, but if Flanagan's not injured, I'm scratching my head. I'm really, really scratching my head over that decision to not have Flanagan playing at the weekend. I think the thing for me is, when you see a defence like that, that's a problem. Defence wins games. So anybody who supports a rugby league side knows that you desperately need a defence that is hard to break down. That's the bread and butter. And unfortunately, we've been waiting, haven't we? We've been saying, wait until they get the troops back, wait until they get the troops back. The majority are back. And that defensive performance was simply not good enough. And when you consider they were ahead in that game, what I saw in that last half an hour of the first half was just shocking. There's no other word for it. Shocking. It was when you consider the personnel that Huddersfield had on that field play, just not good enough. I feel for me the Carbolana. I really do. But yeah, possibly. He needs some results and he needs them quick. Do I think the Leigh Leopards are good? No, I don't think they're good. I think they're very good. Could almost say they're great. The league table doesn't lie. They're third. They've just picked off 3 teams. So, they haven't. They're not anywhere yet. They haven't won the Challenge Cup this year. They're not at Old Trafford yet. They might be. They might not be. But how can you not say that the Leigh Leopards, as a team, but also what they're doing off the field, are a great club? They're not Wigan. They're not Saints. They're not Leeds. Who have been consistently good for the sport. Well, in some areas, not in others. I won't go into that. But they are the benchmark, and Leigh would be the first to admit that. But Leigh are a great club, and they're on that trajectory to being an exceptional club for me. They carry on doing what they're doing. What I like about Leigh, it's like losing weight. If you crash diet and you haven't changed your eating habits, you're going to put the weight back on. Just gradual changes, change your style, change your habits, progressively lose weight. You've got a chance of keeping it off. Same with Leigh. They're just slowly but surely getting better, aren't they? Incremental, just little improvements time and time again. And that'll get them to where they want to be. It's sustainable growth is what we're seeing at the Leigh Leopards. So for me, they're not good. I think they're great and they're getting better all the time. Put everything on Super League Plus and forget Sky, says King's Head. I think Super League Plus rely on Sky though for the cameras and the coverage, so not that straightforward, I'm afraid. Should the clubs be allowed to buy their own cameras to broadcast? Well, I know that Derek's very keen on doing that. I know he's very keen on doing that and streaming themselves. The only thing with that is I do think for somebody like Super League Raw and for people who love the great game of rugby league, I'm going to keep these guys to an hour, by the way. It's great though. Thanks very much for supporting this. This is completely off cuff. But in terms of what you're saying there in terms of or what I'm saying there about Derek, for something like Super League Raw, we need a thing that pulls the glue together, that shows all the games. I think we need that, and we need it done properly. I think Super League, the app and Plus, they put the odd documentary out there, they put the odd feature out there, but again, it's very, very lazy. I mean, again, there should be new content outside of the matches every day. We've got, for example, they don't have a roundup show like we do. They don't have the build-up show like we do. They leave it to people like us. They leave it to people like The Last Tackle to do the work for them. So, yeah, for me, I would love it to be its own standalone, its own studio. And, there's so much that somebody with drive and passion could do to promote our great game. Hello there, the Rugby Football League. Just saying. 7 days a week coverage. 7 days a week coverage. That's what's needed. So much more they could do, without doubt. Right, here we go. Dawn wants me on Sky. Thanks, Dawn. You're an absolute love. Steph, which team has been the biggest disappointment in Super League based on recruitment, etc. before the season? It's got to be Warrington, hasn't it? Has to be Warrington. Warrington Wolves this year, without doubt, pound for pound, have to be the biggest disappointment in Super League. Have to be. The recruitment wasn't great, and the rugby in Super League has been well below the standards that team should have been producing. We've got to be mindful that they've lost key players. arguably their best players. You know, Duffy was out for a period of time. His backup Kai Taylor-Ray's not been there. Matty Ashton out. Danny Walker makes them tick in the centre of the field, out. You know, we saw Leon Hayes out all year. Great to see Leon back for the reserves. Brilliant to see Leon getting 80 minutes at the reserves this week. Maybe Leon Hayes isn't that far away. That's wonderful, wonderful news for any Warrington Wolves fan. We wish Leon nothing but the best. That is a talented lad that we all as Super League supporters want to see the best players on the field. Leon is a wonderful player. Let's hope he's back, and he's back soon. But yeah, they've missed key personnel. But quite simply, all that said, who would have had Warrington Wolves sitting 8th and more than likely not making playoff rugby league? No one. The Challenge Cup, for the time that Warrington were in it and nearly won it, probably masked the fact of where Warrington have been this season. So for me, Steph, you know I'm an honest man. I've got to go the Warrington Wolves. Will Brad Arthur be at Leeds next season? Do you know, this is just like... Do you know what? It's almost like they're doing Dallas Reborn. It's like he's been shot. It's like he's been ran over at the end of series, whatever it was. And he's going to just turn up in the shower somewhere. You know what I mean? Bobby Ewing style. It's like they're waiting for a big cliffhanger. We've had this cliffhanger now for weeks, and I think, you know what? One of the things that gives, if I was a Leeds Rhinos fan, a little bit of hope that he's staying, is the fact that Leeds form appears to be pretty consistent. You know, we do see sides when they, because they've clearly got a lot of loyalty and respect for Brad Arthur, but if they know he's going, I mean, again, is that a problem at Warrington this year? You know, that's really its head a lot. You know, the Sam Burgess link to Australia, has that affected things? And we don't know. You know, what we would say is that if Brad Arthur was going, they might fall off in games, and I don't think they have fallen off in games. So that bodes well that he might stay. It's 50-50. It's 50-50. It'll be interesting. But I'd go as far as to say 50-50. Would I want him to stay? I think based on the brand of rugby league he's got Leeds playing, I think it'd be, short term, it's a good thing for Super League, because I think he's got Leeds competitive again. And we need a competitive Leeds Rhinos, and we do. And the fact that recruitment has already started for next year and nobody's in situ, unless something's going on behind the scenes and not been announced, question. But if Brad Arthur is overseeing all things recruitment with Ian Blease, then very seldom do we see success when a coach goes in once recruitment has been done for that season, because they might not be their players. It might not be the players that they need to play their system. So again, that bodes well. The fact that it's going so into the deep water, there's a chance that Brad Arthur might stay. Right, we've got 14 minutes to go. What else we got? Must be Ada. Which club will Steve Mack be at next? Well, Leeds would be a shout, wouldn't it? I mean, Leeds would be a shout. That wouldn't surprise anyone. Warrington. You know, if Steve has a sabbatical, I mean, you know, we know that Steve McNamara was at the Warrington training ground this week. Tony Smith was there the week before. Sam Burgess bringing in experienced coaches to work alongside him, which I think shows a lot of maturity and humility from Sam. The fact that he's bringing people of that experience in, I think that's a great, you know, and it says a lot about Sam Burgess, that, in terms of, remember in the Steve Mack in convo, if people haven't watched that, then once you finish watching this, if you're not aware of Super League Raw, go over to our YouTube channel, go and watch the first interview with Steve McNamara since he left Catalan. It's absolutely eye-opening. But as Steve McNamara went to the NRL as an assistant coach, having been Great Britain and England coach, you know, great humility to improve himself as a coach. We've seen that with Sam Burgess. You know, to invite Steve Mack in, to invite Tony Smith in, to pick their brains, you know, bodes well for his coaching career in the future, to be surrounding himself with wonderful role models that those two men are. You'll never hear me say a bad word about Tony Smith. I've seen him in close quarters. I know that maybe some of the Robins fans might not see Tony the way I do, but I think Tony Smith, for me, is an exceptional coach in rugby league history. And Steve McNamara, you know, proper stand-up guy as well, so well done to Sam on that. So yeah, again, you know, if Steve's in and around Warrington, you know, Warrington could do a lot worse, you know, than to appoint somebody like Steve McNamara once Sam decides to, he said he's going to see out his contract for 2026. So there's a big question if McNamara's already in post, that won't happen. But if McNamara was still doing speaking circuits or things like that, is there a chance he could rack up at the HJ? Yeah, there is. There's certainly a chance he could pop up at Leeds because of the Brad Arthur piece. If Brad Arthur leaves, massive chance he could pop up at Leeds. Could he become a director of rugby league? There's a vacancy at Leigh. That's another option for Steve McNamara. But the impression I got, and I said this to Steph during the in-conversation, was that Steve still has that buzz for coaching. So perhaps he wouldn't get the same thrill as he just came across as a coach. That's what he loves doing. So I'd be surprised if he took that up. But would he do it for a 12-month interim contract until Leigh can go and find a new full-time one, which then buys him time? If Brad Arthur was to remain in post, that's 2 posts at the end of 26, providing that both those coaches were to stay for the entire year and circumstances didn't change it. We know that Burgess and Brad Arthur, if he did stay, would probably be off at the 26, and Steve Mack could have 2 really good projects there to get his teeth into, depending on which one he'd want. So that'll be interesting. And then, of course, there's Castleford at the moment. I just think Castleford, all of the optics coming out of Castleford is they want an Australian coach. That's what it looks like to me. Don't know what it looks like to you. So we'll wait and see. If I'm a betting man, I don't see him coaching this season. The earliest it'll be at the start of next year. He might even. The other thing is England. You know, you heard him talk about England, Great Britain on the in-convo, didn't you? You know, that's an itch that he'd quite happily scratch again. You know what I mean? I don't think Sean Wayne goes past the Ashes, especially if they lose. And there's a high probability we lose the Ashes. Let's be honest. This is Australia we're talking about. But if we was to lose and lose bad, I think that would be. I think Sean would be done. He very nearly walked after the World Cup, didn't he? So I think Sean would be done after the Ashes. He might be done, win, lose or draw. I mean, if he won, he might leave for the pure. Well, why risk a World Cup? What a legacy that'd be, you know, for Sean Wayne to have coached his national side and got an Ashes series win. Off to the sunset you go, Sean. You know, so that'd be interesting. You know, if that one came available, would he take that? That'd be an interesting one. Let's keep an eye out on that one. Right. If you didn't support Warrington, who would you support? I support Warrington. We move on. Do you back 14 teams next year? 100%. 100%. But again, politics. The only way we are not getting a 14-team comp next year is through short-sighted politics. For us to have a vibrant Super League, we need to get rid of the loop fixtures and we need a 14-team comp. And in whatever way that looks like. And people will say, oh, well, if you only give the 2 new teams the promotion but you don't give them the money, it's not going to be competitive. Look at Salford this year, to a point look at Castleford this year, and look at Huddersfield this year, and then look at London last year, who didn't go up to salary cap, who gave the team that came up with them the opportunity to play in Super League, that gave Josh Wrought the opportunity to put himself in the shop window, and he's now playing fantastic at Wakefield Trinity. I would rather that, and we've seen, you know, there's certain teams down there in the Championship at this moment in time that could come up and do well enough. They'd take a couple of scalps. Yes, they'd probably finish in the bottom 3 or bottom 2. Of course they would. But they'd have the assurance that they were there for the following season. They would give young talent, Championship talent an opportunity to play. They might pick off a few players on loan from the likes of Warrington, Leigh, Wigan, Saints. You know, for example, a Zach Gardner, who you saw play against Catalan. You know, would Zach benefit from a year playing Rugby League, Super League football, and a York Knights as an example at Bradford Bulls? Yeah, he would. So I think, you know, there could be a lot done there to make them competitive at low cost. But again, I think short-sighted politics is going to maintain 12, and I hope I'm wrong when I say that, but I think we need 14. Can you give us an exclusive scoop? Who's next on In Conversation? Well, Gaz O'Brien is definitely going to be very, very soon. Me and Gaz, it's just been timing. That's definitely 100% happening. There's other ones as well in the melting pot, but the big one at the moment will be Gaz O'Brien. That's the next one, and I think off the back of the Steve back, I think that gives me a bit of credibility where when I start reaching out to other big prominent figures in the game, that perhaps they look again at Super League Raw. Great endorsement from Craig Lingard as well. this week as well. Leigh second, they've got momentum and confidence, says Bazza Kingston. What do you think of the NRL upgrading their cameras next year to 15k from the 8k this year? Well, we'll take the 8k ones. I think it's a great idea. Hopefully they do a car boot sale and, Super League can line up and buy the 8k ones. It'd be a massive improvement. Everybody wins then, don't they? It's just where they are, don't it? Proper competition run by proper people, and no wonder they're making millions of pounds. Outstanding. Right, okay. Should Super League have their own dedicated channel on Sky? I don't think we're quite there yet. I think you've got to get the content right, and at the moment we haven't got that right. I think, if I was Sky, I'd be speaking to people who are progressive on our game and passionate about our game, and perhaps Super League need more of in our game, to quote Craig Lingard. There's another story. What do you think is the lack of planning by the Australians for the Ashes? Kevin Walters rumoured to have got the coaching job, but given the time left, they're leaving it a bit late. They are. There's probably a bit of arrogance there as well, Dawn, to be honest. I mean, they know the favourite coming over to Super League, over to England. Australia, at 70%, probably beat us. They're that good. I mean, and I'm not talking out of place when I say that. I'm not being disingenuous to our players either. But Australia are a different animal. Different animal. Complacency could cost them. It could. But look, I think for me, when you're at the top of international sport, in any code, in any sport, man management is key. Going back to Bevan French for a moment. Let's go with Bevan for a minute. As an international coach, what are you going to say to Bevan French? You're going to speak to Bevan as the professional that he is. You're going to explain to him how you want to break down the opposition, and then you're going to sit back and you're going to allow Bevan to tell you what his game plan is to make sure that he's the most effective he can be to achieve that goal. What you don't do is tell him how to play. I just don't think players, and Australia have got a squad full of players that don't need to be coached. They need to be told a system. They need to be told how the structure is, and they need to, of course, build the trust and confidence in the combination on the edges. Of course they need to do that, and that comes through familiarity of training on the training pitch. But these guys, it's not like us trying to learn French or Spanish at school where we studied it for 2 years and all of us failed our exams because we didn't care. The bottom line is these guys are international quality rugby league players. You give them 8 or 9 training sessions together, if that, they'll work the combinations out. They'll work what needs to be done. You've only got to look at Origin for that. They're just well-oiled machines. So like I say, I don't think Australia need worry too much. What they need to do is they need to appoint a manager who inspires, who can tell stories of how important it is to wear the green and gold and what it represents and what it means, to give them the tingles, to give them the spine tingles before they walk out onto the field of play. And providing the coach that they appoint, and there's so many that they could appoint for this series, if they appoint the right one, the players will do the rest. I don't think it's anything really for them to worry about. Do you agree with the quota of players increased to 10? If it goes to 14 teams, I can see the merit in it. If it stays at 12, I don't know why we're doing it, if I'm being honest. Because I think at that point you are suppressing English talent and British talent. I hope that Steph agrees with me on that, because Steph is a big advocate of this. And I am to a point, because I do think they add something to our game. And again, go back to Dal Powell this week saying that he's not going to block Jaden Mize's progression into the Super League team, which is the right thing to do. And as long as we've got coaches behaving in that way, then the future of the British game and of British international rugby league is safe. So that's a good thing. But surely the whole point of a 10 quota spot is that we're actually increasing to 14 teams. And if that doesn't happen, then if there's not enough players to, the people there, there's not enough quality players to go around. There are. I think we find them all the time. I mean, for example, young Murphy there at Salford. If Salford this season don't have the carnage that they had and they maintain their squad, does Declan Murphy get a chance in Super League? No. Is he ready for Super League? Yeah. So how many other Declan Murphys are there? So I think, we've got to hopefully Steph agrees with that. I think if it's a 14-team comp, yeah. If we're staying at 12, absolutely not. Love to have Steve in place of Chesney, says Darren Barnes. Oh, we're coming to the end of the chat right on time. Fantastic. Well done, everyone. Alex Sharp, enjoy the rest of your holiday. Enjoyed listening to your thoughts. Put the other shoulder in the sun now and go and get your cocktail, buddy. Alex, mate, happy fatherhood to you, my mucker. Hope you're enjoying life with young Miller. Give her my love. Give her a kiss on the forehead from Uncle Dave. Wish her well. And Simo, 14 teams next year. Fingers crossed. Who's your 14? I think London are primed for it. I really do. I think London shouldn't have gone this year, if I'm being honest. And then, you know, Bradford, you know, the wood things there in it where Bradford's concerned. I think York Knights have got the infrastructure. I really do. They've done a great job with Women's Rugby League. I'd love to see York Knights develop a squad. I mean, if the rumours are true over Paul Vaughan, is that a statement of intent? You know, I'm under the understanding Paul Vaughan stays at Warrington, but if Paul's been given a better contract at York, contracts mean nothing in rugby league. Warrington might have said, well, look, Paul, we won't stand in your way, we'll recruit to it. I don't know. But yeah, York Knights would be something different. It'd be nice to see that. You know, and I don't know about you, but I love a nice weekend in York. Lovely part of the world. It's another one on the bucket list, that'd be marvellous. But yeah, but I think Bradford, the Nigel Wood appointment, does make you think, doesn't it? Does make you think. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go, have you enjoyed the Q&A? You know, is this something that once we're back home in Blighty, you know, do we do a Q&A every now and again where we just get onto YouTube and, you know, myself and the lads, maybe we could take turns. So I don't have to do them all, that'd be nice. And, you know, we do a Q&A session every now and again. You know, would you like that? Is that, you know, clearly a lot of you have enjoyed it and you've been in and around it, which is absolutely fantastic. And for those non-members who maybe would like a shout out and would like their questions answering, don't forget super chats next time. Use super chats and we've got to answer your questions as well. So have a chat amongst yourselves in the WhatsApp group. If this is something that you want to happen, then let myself, Steph, Greg, and Joel know. And yeah, maybe it'll become a feature of Super League Raw going forward. But from me to you in Cyprus, you know what? I've loved your company. Hopefully I've not waffled on. Hopefully I've answered your questions well. Hopefully I've provided a degree of Rugby League IQ. And yeah, from me and my mate Dolphy, have a lovely afternoon. Enjoy your Rugby League. Bye for now.